Hyperinflation alert. We are right now facing some of the highest prices we have ever seen. And this is not just in one category, it is in many different categories in real goods. That's what's important. It doesn't matter what the stock market is at, because when it costs too much to buy a simple thing like some food, that's when the reality sets in. I'm going to get into the truth today, and it will be very hard for the mainstream media to really get around this one. Price index for meat, poultry, fish, and eggs rocket to all-time high. And this is a real scenario because this is actually you going to the market, buying your food, and having to pay the highest prices you ever had to. Now, the reasons why this is the case, I'll get into that in a moment, and you've heard me talk about it so many times before, but herein is the proof. Let's go into the chart right now, which shows you a straight line, no matter if it's recession or depression or whatever the scenario may be. This is that you probably can't see it, but from 1967 this chart starts off at up until the present day, and you have practically a straight line heading upward. Now you have to ask yourself the question, why is this occurring? Now they may say, well, it's inflation. That's inflation. It just happens a few percent every year. It's normal. Well, that really isn't normal. There have been many periods throughout history when this wasn't normal, and I will show you why in just a second. Let me get to some more examples. Gasoline at U.S. pumps set to hit a 6-year seasonal high. The gas prices are astronomical right now. It has become so unaffordable. If you think to a decade ago or perhaps a little more, the gas prices were significantly cheaper. Nothing with the gas has changed. It's not any better technology. It isn't any better in any way. It just costs more dollars to purchase. That's what it comes down to. I'll leave it at that. Let me go on. Consumer prices rise sharply in May. This is just May, but this is the kind of thing that we've run into for years. We're looking at every price going up. Nothing goes down in price in general. For the most part, your daily consumable things, the electricity, the food, etc., are going up in price. Now, are these foods any better than they were 100 years ago? This is the argument I made in my book. They're not. Really, they're probably worse, if anything. But essentially, you're dealing with the same thing that was the case 50 years ago, 100 years ago, except it costs more dollars to buy. The dollars are unfortunately being devalued. If you live in Canada, you live in the UK, the US, Australia, wherever the case may be, all central banks are in a race to the bottom. Because one country decides to print money, like the US, all others need to follow. Because in order to basically stay competitive with their exports, they print money. And this was the case even for a country like Switzerland. Switzerland actually decided to print money and peg their dollar at the Swiss franc at 120 to the euro because their currency was too strong. The public was thinking, hey, your currency's strong, let's throw money at your currency, but that was hurting their exports, they said. So they had to decide to do what they did, just like all other central banks, and print money. So here is this little chart here from my book, basically just showing the monetary base. Now this was showing you probably up to, let's say, 2011. And this is obviously even worse now because it is at over $4 trillion. However, you get the point. What I'm trying to show you here is that you can barely even see the monetary expansion from the beginning of this chart. And then it starts to slide upward after 1971, where we get the pulling off of the gold standard. And then you have an extremely large jump, the hockey stick as they like to refer to it, and it goes up dramatically. More money created in a year that was ever created in all history before that. That is unbearable. It is extreme. So when you ask me why the prices are rising, is this just normal inflation? Is that the way things go? The answer is absolutely not. This is central banks printing money, and they're doing so to the death of their currency. That's what happens. It's happened 100 times before in all countries. Historically, all empires fall because of this reason. They get too arrogant and they print and they devalue, and they've done this over and over again. So then you have this article here, May housing starts, permits slip more than 6%. This is just one example, but what I'm trying to show you is they're trying to say that the housing market, it's doing better than it was, but it's still struggling. And the reality of the situation can't be any further from this here. The reality is this: America's 14.2 million vacant homes, a national crisis. They went absolutely absurd with the loans, with the building of the homes, and really pushed up the prices dramatically. And you have millions upon millions of empty homes in the US. In China, you have even more. And these are just some examples. But essentially, when you keep interest rates all the way at the bottom, and you have money being practically handed out to people, and you don't scrutinize them for their what they need for loans and so on and so forth, you have a glut. And that's exactly what happens. You would not believe the amount of time it's going to take to sell these 14.2 million homes. This is absurd. You can see their monetary policy, their fiscal policy, what it's doing. They're going way into deficit. They have gluts like this. They have a national deficit that is extreme. It is not going anywhere. This is how a country gets into hyperinflation. There is no way out. I hope that you will become an insider like many of the others have been. I'm getting a lot of great correspondence on there. I want to hear from you guys on the Money GPS Insiders. That is basically an extension of the work I've done in my book, and I can give that away for free. I can get it to your email inbox, and I hope that you'll join me on there. It is at themoneygps.com at the bottom. Fill in your email address, and I'll hope to see you there.